And may I also dare say, Mr. Speaker, and this is not empty threat, that failure to do that, I will be moving members of the House to refrain from any talk of recess, firstly, and secondly, to refrain from any engagement on any business. Not until and unless NG-CDF funds are disbursed. There is nobody in the executive who should imagine that you are doing any member of parliament any favor by disbursing CDF. CDF funds are funds that are going directly to the people. Our people are waiting for us not to go on recess. They are waiting for us to go home to process their bursaries for term 1 school fees in January. If this House adjourns for recess without a clear indication as to when disbursements of NG-CDF will be made, we stand the risk of staying all the way up to the last quarter of this financial year without any single amount of money being disbursed. In any case, Honorable Speaker, NG-CDF is not disbursed to the committee. It is disbursed to the fund manager. The fund manager is an employee of the board, which is an extension of the National Treasury. So there's absolutely no reason why the National Treasury should not be disbursing our CDF.
Majority Leader, I will give you an opportunity, perhaps together with the Chair of Budget and Finance, to engage the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury, and I'll give you an opportunity on Tuesday afternoon to make a formal statement out of that engagement so that you can be able to guide the House accordingly.
All right, and Tuesday is tomorrow that it is expected there could be a report from the Leader of Majority. And I want us to also look at what a bill that has been prepared by Stephen Mule and the Member of Parliament for Gishugu to amend the Constitution to first establish the NG-CDF and raise the allocation from 2.5% to 5% of the national government revenue. And when you look at the calculation currently, the national revenue for this financial year is about 1.76 trillion shillings. So 5% of that would be 88 billion shillings. That's double the current amount. The next thing that that bill proposes is to establish the Senate Oversight Fund, and that would be 0.001% of the national government revenue, comes to an estimate of 17.6 million shillings. And then there is the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, 0.25% of the national government revenue, an estimate of 4.4 billion shillings, and so many other proposals, including one on economic stimulus and empowerment fund that is also to come from the national government kitty. So here we are. Let me begin with you, Honorable Mule, because you're the sponsor of that constitutional amendment bill. And there has been quite a bit of reaction, people saying that maybe you're engaging in an activity that you shouldn't because, well, the Supreme Court said that the CDF Act of 2013 is unconstitutional. Now you're trying to now entrench the fund into the Constitution. I mean, how do you plan to do that through Parliament, but then will you require a referendum? How is that process looking like ahead?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, we don't require a referendum to amend the Constitution, especially on what we are trying to do to entrench the CDF GAF money into the Constitution. Anybody telling Kenyans that we require a referendum to do that, that's a fallacy. I saw it coming from a lawyer. I want to tell him, please read the law properly. Secondly, we have a process, and the process is parliamentary, whereby we have already begun, and we need to go through the parliamentary way to save Kenya money, time, and we make sure that we get the national government affirmative action money, the CDF, Senate Oversight, and Empowerment Fund to the Constitution. Thirdly, we want to tell Kenyans that what was declared unconstitutional is the Act of 2013. We still have the National Government Constituency Development Fund of 2015, which there is no ruling, there is no
challenge.
Nothing stops the Cabinet Secretary at Treasury to release money and continue. where we are coming from, where we want to entrench these monies to the constitution, is that to deal with the busybodies who want to just have fun to go to court and get some rulings and make the young people in this country, the students, the infrastructure at the village level stops. And I want to ask those who went to court, let them give me a list of 10 students they have sponsored to school, from Form 1 to university. 2, why we are looking forward is that this country is growing economically. We are already in the middle income country. We want to put up structures so that the future governments, if Koech becomes a president at the age of 60, he doesn't need to struggle with law to make sure that he delivers to the country. And that's why we are not very, we are looking at different funds to be entrenched in the constitution, to be used for the future of this nation, and to be of benefit. And let me be honest with you, and I said it the other day, we need homemade solution for this country to grow. CDF is one of the homemade case for this country to go far. This country, we have very good ideas on homemade solutions. For example, M-Pesa. It is embraced all over the world right now. It has changed the trade of doing business in this country. When we are talking about economic empowerment and stimulus fund, you realize that this country is still struggling with different areas whereby we need quick mitigation to make sure that we inspire the growth of the economy. And that gives us the opportunity, instead of having an idea and it dies at the political arena, let it be in the constitution so that whichever government comes in place, whichever years, when we either be there or not, they have a structure they can use.
Let me ask you this, because when the Supreme Court was making that decision that they did early August, just before the election, they were not necessarily talking about the usefulness of the CDF. In fact, they said that it's true, that it's brought some positive impact into the society. But the question was the role of the parliamentarian. Do you really think that the cure to that is entrenching it into the Constitution, or do you need to look at what the issues were with the CDF Act 2013 versus the NG-CDF of 2015 and correct it?
Basically, you see, people may not understand this. None of these members seated here sign any check for CDF. None of these members seated here sits in the committee at the constituency level to determine what. There is a very clear structure of how CDF operates. What we are saying is this. Already, what the court looked at for the CDF 2013 Act and found there was a loophole has been cured by the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015. But don't forget, the same busybodies are in court again, challenging the National Government 2015 Act. And I know the submissions will be done by the end of, by 1st or 2nd of December, and probably the court might be said to do a ruling before December Christmas. And if the risk can be, they make another pronouncement, the pronouncement about the 2015, I can assure you none of these members will be at the constituency in January, because there is a lot of pressure from the constituency to make sure that students go to school. Last but not least, why we want to protect these funds is very clear. We cannot kill this good idea of Engineer Karue or back 2009, because we have a new constitution, things are not constitutional. Parliament is there to make laws. Whoever is saying that we are engaging in an exercise in futility, maybe he doesn't know the role of Parliament. And the role of Parliament is to deal with what is unconstitutional, what is unlawful, representation, and make sure that we come up with legislation for the future. Last but not least is that I want to tell you it is a very sad third term for especially students who have been benefiting from CDF. Quite a number of them are preparing for their Form 4 exams at home because the schools have sent them home and we are completely helpless. We can't do anything. There are students in my constituency, since Form 1 to Form 4, they have never seen any other source of school fees apart from CDF.
Okay.
And we want to urge the teachers and the principals, please allow these young men and girls to remain in school, do their exam, and definitely, I know these are honorable members. Once we sort out this so-created mess by people who are not understanding the country, we'll definitely have to pay. And what is paining most some is that when these students stays at home for a whole term, you can be assured at the end of the day, the school fees must be paid. What are we paying for?
Let's listen to some of them because they have been speaking to our reporters in different parts of the country, explaining what they are going through. Watch.
Si by the way tuko na stress vile niona mtoto amekuja, nikamwambia sasa Kenya iko mpaka next year ndio ende shule. Sasa ndio maana alikuja huko.
Iko changamoto kweli wangu. Mimi kuweza kulipia huyu mtoto pale mahali yako na hiyo shule ni nasana school ni ngumu sana. Mimi nilifikiria kama ninaweza enda nitoe huyu pale mahali yako nimlete day school, lakini kapata siwezi. Siwezi kwa sababu huko niko na deni.
Nilifukuzwa school fees. Nimekaa nyumbani kwa mwezi mmoja. Sasa naona shida katika hii masomo yangu.
Sasa inashindwa nifanye vipi? Sijui sasa kama hiyo CDF wataturudishia iendelee kutusaidia ama ni vipi. Sasa naomba serikali tuangalie kama sisi wazazi wenye hatujiwezi.
Ako nje akona balance ya 27,500 na hii mwezi wa mwaka wa form 3 iko karibu kumalizika, kuna mwaka mwingine taenda kuanza, hiyo pesa itaendelea kuwa nyingi sana.
All right, these are just some of their voices. And Honorable Koech, your contribution to this and what you think should be done, because the MPs, including Honorable Pio and I, they are saying that you're going to down your tools, quote unquote, if the money is not disbursed. What exactly do you think needs to happen with all these efforts to save NG-CDF?
First, to take from Honorable Mule, let me tell you that CDF plays a critical role in the education sector of this country. Actually, it is transformational. Today, to be told that we will not be getting any funds is a tragedy. You've heard the voices out there, what people are saying. Shortly, we will be celebrating 20 years from the inception of CDF, that is next year. The work that it has done in this country is unimaginable. To say that that ruling, first of all, was quite academic. In separation of power, doctrine of separation of power, I think that is exactly the area that it touched on. But it ignored many other areas. Let me tell you this, and I like what Honorable Mule said. I have a school in my constituency, two schools actually, a girls' school and a boys' school, that entirely depends on CDF. I took orphans from the constituency who perform very well. We have a school for them that is modeled in the structure of Starehe, and we fully pay for them school fees. The school, at least the principal, has been very magnanimous. I've had to, at some point, go into my pocket to sustain their studies as a way to prepare for the exams. Schools that do very well with the exams, they entirely rely on NG-CDF. So many other functions in the constituencies. Right now, it is even a problem for us to go into the constituency because we do not have any money. So you end up being, we'd rather do it from Arambes and manage those very extremely needy cases than to deliberately be there and be subjected into an unnecessary pain of parents who cannot send their kids to school.
And Honorable Coach, isn't that part of the problem then? Because you are a representative of the people, you're a legislator, you're also a person who conducts oversight, but you're also the person linking the people.
I'm saying you're there, but then largely why our role, by the way, Sam, let me tell you, why I'm in my second term is purely because of my work with the NG-CDF. Nothing else. That is exactly what people saw, the transformation that I brought, and they assessed and said, this guy can do more if we give him another term.
I know it's difficult for you to reflect on it because you're an interested party in that sense that you're a member of parliament, but is that the right way to do things? Shouldn't that fund be being managed by someone else than yourself to come and
oversee? It is. We'd never touch anything with NG-CDF. The structures, by the way, the corruption cases, attributed to CDF are very few. Why? Because of the structure, the way it has been made. It is very difficult for a member of parliament to get their hands on CDF, on management of CDF. Zero. Our role purely is to implement and say these are the things that I would like to be done for this financial year, allow the board to agree, and they will give you back. It is assessed. From the point of construction.
Yes, you just told me that you're even afraid of going home because they'll come.
No, I'm saying we do not have anything to tell. We do not have anything to tell parents. Most of the students have been sent back home because of school fees. You go there as a member of parliament and you are helpless. You cannot be helpless with the parents. You have to be of help. And at some point, we have to get into our pockets to make sure that some of the needy students go back to school. We've done it so many times, not once, not twice, severally. Until now, everyone in parliament is saying enough is enough. And let me tell you, it just needs the goodwill of the Treasury to release the funds. Like my colleague did say, we have not offended the Constitution with the Act of 2015. Yes. What was in analysis, what the courts ruled on was the CDF Act of 2013, and I like what Honorable Mule is doing. Now what he's trying to do is to align even further the Act to be consistent with the law. And Treasury, Judiciary, by the way, as they do this ruling, they purchase their own things. No one is questioning that. They do their own construction. No one is questioning that. They do all the procurement themselves. But then it becomes an issue when it is members of parliament, which we don't even, and you watched Honorable Ichung'wah here saying that there is no way we interact with the funds. The Treasury, through our constituency managers,
how do I believe that if you tell me that the reason why you're in your second term is because of the work you did with the NG-CDF?
What I do is this. We do public participation. I go to a village and I ask them, what do you feel like we should do for you this year? They say, we do not have a secondary school here. So even as you prepare your plan, your proposals, please include the secondary school here. That proposal is sent to the NG-CDF board for approval. Then you are given a go-ahead to proceed if it is okay with them. Then that is exactly what you do. So if you align your programs...
How does that grant your second term?
If you align your program so well, there are members of parliament who probably do not even engage on construction of useful structures in the constituency, or don't even care where to put what. If you align your program so well that the community feels that you've done what they wanted you to, then of course they'll give you a second term. It goes, let me tell you, last year, let me just give you an example. Just before we went for election, the last 2 years, even though I was technically in opposition in government, I paid school fees for all the day scholars in my constituency. It is something that I'm still going to do. That alone was a radical shift from where we were. It allowed all the students locally. No, from NG-CDF, from the bursary. So I paid. It's not, I mean, that is a structure that it's not easy. To pay all the school fees for day scholars is not something very easy because you also have other students that are there. I have schools that I've told you.
I think you're contradicting yourself.
I am not. Listen to me, sir. If you just stopped interjecting, because you are not allowing me space. I am telling you, I have a project of orphans in my constituency. I have done it now. They did the exams for 2 consecutive terms before I left, before we came into this term, and they did so well. Purely paid from NG-CDF. So we go to the community and say, which orphans in this village have done so well, and they do not have anyone to look after them. I take them and put them in these schools. They have done so well. That is transformational. That is part of the work of NG-CDF. Security, we build police stations. We build chief's offices. That is some of the work of NG-CDF. You saw yesterday, your media even covered Honorable Didi Nyoro and the work that is done in Kiharu. Massive work, tiling of the schools, rebuilding of all schools, and having new structures in place for our students. Let me tell you, in 10 years going forward, with transformation that members of parliament are undertaking with CDF, I can tell you private school will be a no place to go for this country.
Okay, Honorable Kosing, so, I mean, there's no disputing that there has been real transformation, as Honorable Koech is saying here, but I'm also looking at some of the statements that the Chief Justice told to the Senate meeting when they had their retreat in Naivasha. And her problem was, apart from the grounds given in the judgment, her problem was also on these members of parliament whose role, the three key roles that you have, oversight, representation, legislation. But also you're now involved, or rather you have a stake, or you have influence over the distribution of that CDF to the tune that Honorable Koechner is telling me here that partly why he was elected for a second time is because of the work he did with
Largely, not partly.
NG-CDF. Okay, largely. See? So really, is there a way of winning against that position? Because the Supreme Court has spoken.
Let me tell you, Sam, and let me begin by saying this. The busybodies can go to hell. I want to say that. And I'll tell them, because they don't know what CDF has done. Let me just give you a very simple example, then I answer you. And that's why I'm using those very heavy words. If a toilet collapses, a school toilet collapses in Pokot South, or in Kaloleni, or in Mwingi, or in Matungulu, what happens with that very fundamental requirement in a school toilet? What happens? It's always being fixed by CDF. Can you write a letter to the Ministry of Education? Wait for money to come. When will it come, Sam? The reason why I'm saying that is that they can take that CDF to court. We will also do a regulation. An anchor, you can call it anything, but we'll have that money going back to help our children. We can also put under Finance Act. What's the problem? We might even be thinking about the regulation and anchor it in as our colleagues are doing the bigger picture, which might take some time. They can go to court with now the 2015. We will also do another one under Finance Act, right? A regulation. By December, it might be ready. So when they finish with the 2015, we will take them until Supreme Court. Then when we finish Supreme Court, they will come and start the other one, which we started in terms of, they will never win. They will never win, Sam. Number two, what are courts supposed to do? They are so academic. And who are they representing? My understanding of courts are that they were established to protect public interests. That is the simple reason and mandate of the courts. Primarily, they are supposed to protect public interests, apart from now resolving issues of crime. They are supposed to exist to protect the citizenry. If they are not protecting the citizenry by even protecting the collapsing or providing even toilets for those students or pupils in Pokot South, why are they protecting the interests of busybodies? I think there's something wrong. There's something wrong, Sam. And they have also forgotten that we have 4 roles in the Constitution. They only keep on talking about this one called oversight and another one called legislation. They have forgotten too that we are supposed to represent the people. Article 95. And further, Sam, which I also want you to be saying all the time.
Okay.
We are supposed to listen and resolve issues that affect the people.
That's another role.
Yes, there are 4.
There are 4.
There are 4. You always say, Sam, you are almost even becoming captive of the busybodies. No. Why are you forgetting? So oversight?
So where's listen and resolve? Where do I find it?
It is 95.
96 of the Constitution.
95.
95.
Look at 95.
96. Yeah.
If you look at that, listen and resolve issues that affect the people.
All issues.
All issues. So how do you actualize that, Sam? Even our courts have become so much, as my colleague saying, Belgut one, they have become so academic, so theoretical, opaque, and hot air. Because it's true. How do you actualize listening and resolving issues affecting the people? How do you? That's why Honorable Koech, when he's in his constituency, that's when I'm in Pokot South, I listen to my people, and I must find a resolution. You cannot listen in vain, Sam, and say, oh, you know, oh, pole. Oh, what is pole? What is pole? People go to see the president and ask for a bridge. What does the president do? Refer them to the minister for roads, for example. So if an MP goes to his constituency and I'm representing my people, when I listen to them, I refer them to NG-CDF. Yes. That is how we resolve these issues quickly, Sam. But when you people become captives of the busybodies and forgetting that MPs are supposed to listen and resolve issues affecting the people. Then you should ask.
I got it, David Koseng. Article 95.2, it's not listening. It's the National Assembly deliberates on and resolves issues of concern to the people.
What's the difference between listening and deliberating?
I'm reading the Constitution.
Yes.
Let's not argue about what is on paper. So I don't know how that translates to what you're saying about NG-CDF.
Can you, how do you resolve? Can you conclude that statement?
Deliberates on and resolves issues of concern to the people.
Yes. What is the concern of the people? A collapsed toilet. How do you resolve? What is the issue? The issue is concern of the people, school fees. How do you resolve? How does Parliament, how does an MP resolve?
Through CDF.
Right? Through CDF.
Okay.
There must be an answer.
Honorable,
there must be an answer.
This is your second term, right?
Yes, it is.
What are the concerns within your constituency? And because, I mean, the members of Parliament that spoke on the floor of the House, they've put it clear, but what are the specific concerns in your area?
Well, the people of the Dagoretti South constituency are extremely concerned because in the last 5 years, they've been able to see what a decentralized fund can do. In the last 5 years, the Dagoretti South constituency was able to establish 5 new high schools in 5 years, able to build police station after police station, including the ultra-modern Reruta police station, fully digitized new multi-story station. There are other police stations all over the place. We've been able to make sure that the people serving our people are not serving them from Mabati houses. These are administrators, DCC, ACCs, chiefs, assistant chiefs, all in good places. The Dagoretti South constituency in the last 5 years is the only constituency in Kenya that has a comprehensive school feeding program where over 12,000 lunches are being served every day out of the Dagoretti South Central Kitchen. The people of Dagoretti South are concerned that if we tamper with the model of a decentralized fund in the name NG-CDF, then the trajectory of development that we have been witnessing in the last 5 years is going to be slowed down. Our people are extremely concerned by the proclamations that you stated, some. A whole Chief Justice referring to CDF as a devolved fund. CDF is not a devolved fund. CDF is aptly titled National Government Constituency Development Fund. It is the national government deciding to decentralize some funds from Treasury to some organs of the national government, which are sub-counties or constituencies. Now, when the moment you know, it's an English who say that if you want to kill a dog, first give it a bad name. To imagine that these matters shall be presided over in Kenyan courts that are superintended by the Chief Justice, you start getting worried when such a senior official of the judiciary doesn't get the basics right, that NG-CDF is not a devolved fund. And MPs are not conducting devolved functions.
Absolutely.
MPs are from the National Assembly, which is a national government entity. So when MPs are oversighting NG-CDF, they are well within their role and mandate to be oversighting. The business that the MPs are conducting right now is lobbying for these funds. It does not mean that MPs have a personal interest in the funds. MPs are actually doing their roles. All the roles summed up can add up to what you're seeing MPs agitating for. But the encouraging thing is to know that, one, NG-CDF has not had a smooth ride. You can imagine where we came from before the Honorable Engineer Karowe came with this very brilliant and innovative law. It was at a point where MPs were held hostage by the executive. Those who could access State House then would be lining up at State House every Friday looking for some little handouts on Friday so that they can run back, troop back to their constituency and try and do a thing or two. But with NG-CDF, MPs now got a reprieve in the sense that some money had been decentralized from the national government, taken directly to constituencies. And even better than devolved funds, NG-CDF is a conditional grant that if the people of Ngando, meeting at a meeting called a public participation meeting, identify Angando Multipurpose Center as the priority, even the MP, not even the committee, has any power over the decision made by the people. This decision will be made directly to Treasury, because I want to assume that the fund manager superintending over the funds at the constituency is an agent of the Treasury. This fund manager cannot even alter what has been made as a decision. The monies will be allocated specifically to the project that has been pinpointed and prioritized by the community. Now, what makes it a better fund? By being a conditional grant. Compare NG-CDF, a conditional grant, with the monies that are going to county to the tune of billions. For example, Nairobi in the last few financial years should be getting an upward of 30 billion shillings, even all the way to 42 billion in a year in monies that we do in the division of revenue that goes to counties. If it is 40-something, you would be expecting that the Dagoretti South constituency would be feeling the impact of around 2 billion Kenya shillings coming from county. Even if they were to have operational costs, let us even put it at the lowest. Let's say the Dagoretti South constituency should be feeling the impact of around 500 million Kenya shillings from the county. However, if you go to the Dagoretti South constituency today, you'll be more feeling the impact of not more than 100 and something million coming through the conditional grant in the name of NG-CDF, more than you would ever feel the impact of the money coming from counties. So what I would want us to imagine as a country is a place where we are not splitting hairs as to where should the NG-CDF be domiciled, what should be the role of an MP. This is splitting hairs. They say if it is not broken, you have no business fixing it. NG-CDF is working so well, better than any decentralized fund, better than any devolved fund, to an extent that by what the Honorable Mule brought to the House, I was inspired. And I am actually working on an amendment which I prosecuted when we were doing the pre-conference on his legislative proposal. I have even now been inspired to think of how we can decentralize further. I am bringing an amendment that is requesting a decentralization of county funds towards just the way national government funds are being decentralized to constituencies. Yes?
Can you really do that at this stage? Is the bill published?
Yes. No.
The bill has not been published.
Let me give the Kenyans the
Can I prosecute my amendment?
Okay.
So that I leave it. My amendment
just
is
hold on.
in one line, Sam.
You still have the mic. I just need that clarification. Is it published?
Not yet.
What we are doing is this, Sam. We are taking views. We have done public participation from members of parliament. We are going to have public participation with the Senate. We are going to have public participation with public out there, the entire country, in the 47 counties. Then we'll come, based on the draft we have already given proposal to parliament, then we'll come and get all the views, put together, analyze, and come up with a bill. Why we are doing this is this, and these Kenyans need to know. We don't work from a point of unknown. The final bill, once it's tabled in parliament, you cannot even amend a comma. That is the law. So what we are doing is that we have already have the legislative proposal, which has been submitted to the Speaker. And I want to thank members of parliament. We required only 50 signatures. We got 330 signatures from members of parliament. Now, the Speaker, through the new standing orders, we brought that legislative proposal to parliament through a statement. So members have reacted to statement. In layman's language, that is public participation of the people who represent people. Then we are going to do the same, probably this week and next week, to Senate. And I know the Speaker Wetangula is working very tirelessly on that to do. From there, this statement of proposal of legislation will be sent to the to the committee which governs CDF, headed by Honorable Musa Silima. Then they will come up with a program to go around the 47 counties to listen to Kenyans, improve on the legislative proposal, then come back, form a small ad hoc committee or a small team of members and we also need to listen to the Attorney General. We also need to listen to the actors, the busybodies, but the busybodies will not give them a lot of time. They can prepare themselves to go to the Court of Arusha or ICC. Then from there, put up a very clean amendment to the Constitution through Article 204, whereby we now introduce the National Government Constituency Development Fund, the GAF, the Senate oversight. Senate oversight, I know we are already, there are people who are saying, oh, it's unconstitutional. It will be called Parliamentary Oversight Fund Senate, because Senate belongs to Parliament.
Okay.
So we have the roadmap.
And I looked at it and I thought 17 million shillings, I don't know how sufficient that will be.
We are on very early stages. We are going to agree with the senators what is viable. Okay. And we have to look at the economic of scale.
All right.
And two, don't forget, and this has to go very clearly, all what we are proposing is amendment to the Constitution. Then Parliament will enact legislation per fund.
Okay, that's fine. I took away the mic from you, but there's something you said, that the allocation to Nairobi County has been 42 trillion shillings.
No.
That
I said that
billion.
The collective sums of monies that end up being presided over by Nairobi County can amount to around 30 billion to 40 billion a year.
Okay.
This is taking into account the monies that we give them on the division of revenue, but also the monies that they are able to collect in terms of revenues and rates. If you totaled up the monies in the last few financial years, they could be averaging at anything between 30 billion to 40-something billion.
I think you're talking about the total budget, because the allocation...
The total budget, yes. The allocation is way lower than that.
It's 19.2...
It's around 20 billion a year. This 20 billion, if you would look at how much revenue Nairobi is able to raise in a year, is anything between 13 billion and 20 billion in a year. So it can add up to around 30 to something to 40-something billion in a year.
All right.
But what I was saying is that...
And I need to circulate the question because you've...
Yes, but I wanted to complete my statement by saying this decentralized fund in the name of NG-CDF has been so impactful on constituencies that I have even been inspired, and this is a push that is being made from many county assemblies for us to also decentralize the monies that are going to counties in the form of an equitable distributed fund, so that even the counties decentralize their monies to the wards.
Yes.
Now, the big question was on why we are here with a legislative proposal, and as the Honorable Kosing, very senior and ranking member, told you, it is in Parliament's place to seek out any mischief that is affecting Kenyans and to remedy it. And I think the Honorable Geshimo and the Honorable Mole are well in their place to make a legislative proposal to seek to remedy this mischief that we have been having. The way it is placed now, CDF, becomes a punching bag for anyone. But if we entrenched it if it is a good thing, why would we be wary of entrenching it in the Constitution? I do believe that this legislative proposal is going to get an overwhelming support in the House. It's going to be bipartisan. As you're being told, in excess of 300 and something members are already in support because they know it is for the benefit of the country and for the benefit of the people in Kenya.
Okay, all right. And of course, we're waiting to see how those conversations between Kimani Ichung'wah, the leader of majority, and the National Treasury will yield. That is expected tomorrow. I want us to transition to another topic because it's just about 15 minutes to the top of the hour, and that is to do with a state of security in the country. Last week, the country welcomed the new Inspector General, that is one Japhet Koome. Here is what he had to say as he took oath of office.
Uko kule kwa estate, unasumbua wananchi kwa kudunga hao visu, kupiga watu risasi, it will not happen under my watch. I will have slept on the job. Yale mali umetafuta kwa bidii, tutachunga hiyo mali. Yeyote anajaribu kuingia kwa mfuko wako, anachukua wallet yako, uko na rekbase umenunua ya dhahabu, anataka kuichukua, atapata cha contempt. The law says a police officer can use a firearm. Therefore, the officers are aware. And any police officer who uses ace or a firearm under those circumstances, we are there to protect that officer.
All right, new Inspector General Japhet Koome there, as he was being sworn in the presence of the Chief Justice Martha Koome. Let me begin with you, Honorable Kosing, because you come from a region, at least your neighbors, there has been challenges, but I also think within your county there has been challenges.
A lot.
What is this magic bullet that IG Koome must bring, while also reflecting on the current immediate challenges that the security sector is facing?
Thank you very much, Sam. And this is a fundamental question to the country and where I come from. Of course, everybody knows we come from a region which has been baptized with the word cat rustlers, you know, that enclave of Turkana, West Pokot, Samburu, and so on. What I want to tell the new commissioner, I want to tell him two things. Number one, I want to tell him to change the strategy they are using. Yes, there's insecurity in that place. It is true. Why? There are reasons. But I want him to change from these called military operations, police operations, to something I call bring the military. What the president said the other day, let us remove the army from Nairobi. Let them live in Baragoi. Let them live in in Lomelo, in Tiati, and let them live there, maybe 10 kilometers radius, for 15 years. What has been done by Museveni to eradicate cat rustling in the entire Karamoja? So I want to tell the Inspector General who is coming, because now he's coming with a lot of energy, maybe he's going to say, okay, operation in where I come from is synonymous to extrajudicial killing. In fact, we met with the minister last week, and we presented a list of 32 people who have been missing from Tiati in Baringo County. It's, you know, somebody being selected, somebody being kidnapped by people we don't know, we suspect they are police. And therefore, I want him to come with a new strategy, to come and implement that. Number two, I want also to tell the Inspector General something which has been really a problem in this country is corruption in recruitment of police, Sam. In West Pokot, for example, this is a poor place, and I'm taking an example of West Pokot, not necessarily referring to West Pokot County, but most counties that are of poor economic value or what they make. How do you expect that person to pay 600,000 to be recruited as a police, Sam? Because that's the norm. 500,000, 300,000, 600,000 just to recruit somebody to the police. I want the Inspector General to come in immediately and eradicate that thing. Let a Kenyan who qualifies to become a policeman or whatever, let him or her be recruited without a shilling. Sam, let me tell you, that is the order of the day. And that is why I'm thinking as I exit that debate, and I'm giving him an advice. I want also to give the nation an advice, that maybe going forward, because do I have confidence on the new Inspector General? 50-50. Why? Because he's an insider, Sam. If we tell him, come and eradicate corruption, maybe he's also part of the corruption, because he has been inside. He's grew up that ladder of corruption until where he is. I'm suggesting, Sam, as we go forward, that let us open the recruitment of Inspector General, not only to police. Let us open it. Let us have a different person coming to head the police within the security sector. For example, an SIS person can come and become an Inspector General and bring a radical change. Somebody from the army, somebody from the military intelligence, somebody from Institute of Security Studies. We can have somebody like that, Sam, coming to head the police. I am thinking as a country going forward so that we eradicate this menace. And I want to tell...
Isn't that where IG Boynet came from, NIS?
You know, it didn't come from NIS properly.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
You know, It's an example, right? It's an example. But we need to entrench it in law, right? So that at least we change completely this area.
Okay.
Because when you talk, what has ailed police is corruption. Even what you see now, people are saying, oh, there's marking, a lot of marking. Maybe it's related to the same thing. Corruption is the worst thing in police. Particularly, I want to ask him to eradicate it in recruitment. Let our people be recruited without any money.
So you raised the issue of corruption. Let's listen to IG Koome, what he had to say about cattle rustling that is actually giving a different name. Listen.
Cattle, actually, it is livestock rustling. It is not cattle rustling. A lot of property destroyed, wananchi wanakufa, maofisa wanakufa. Our strategy now is to target the loans. We are calling them livestock loans. And we shall engage Parliament so that such people, they are dealt with for committing a terrorist acts.
None of us can make it alone. It is a shared responsibility, not only with the actors within the criminal justice sector, the judiciary, the police, the prosecution, but also the people themselves.
All right, and in addition to that, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and the President William Ruto yesterday was speaking in Baringo and specifically about Tiati. Watch.
Wale askari wako pale Tiati, sio kazi wamekosa ya kufanya. Tuko na kazi mingi sana hapa pale Nairobi na pahali kwingine. Wameletwa hapo kwa sababu iko kazi ya kufanywa. Njia ya kutoa hao askari, mheshimiwa, muongee kama viongozi, warudishe buduki, askari waondoke.
Kazi hiyo ya kukoroga amani, kupiganisha wananchi, bunduki left, right and center, hiyo kazi tutaikomesha. Wawache hiyo kazi kwa hiari, na kama hawatawacha kwa hiari, watawacha kwa lazima.
Okay, so you come from the Defense and Foreign Relations Committee oversight, not actively there, and you look at the challenges that we continue to experience and what Honorable Kosing has been saying. What do you think he must do, IG Koome, and also reflecting on what the President and the Deputy are saying in Baringo?
First, looking at time, I think we might not be able to discuss the cost of the bottom-up plan. I really had over-prepared for it. But on the issue of security, the cardinal responsibility of IG Koome is to secure lives and property. That's number one. Number two, I don't really believe on security officers who like to be on camera. I like them going back and getting to work. IG Koome is spoken enough. Now get down to work. And I'll tell you this. He has to silence the guns in the north. We've said this. I think also it's been used by politicians many times. But this must stop. When we were doing the vetting of cabinet secretaries, Honorable Esuda actually shed a tear on the number of lives she keeps losing in her constituency every time. This thing, what is so difficult in just ending it once and for all? What is so difficult in taking away the guns that these terrorists, as have been branded, have, and get order in those places? Schools, students don't go to school because of insecurity. IG Koome must get down to work and make sure that we have peace in the north. The president has spoken about it. The deputy president has spoken about it. And I think if he does not perform, this is not a president who just will sit back and watch. You know, heads will roll. And this is exactly what we need, that we fix a problem, we identify a problem, fix it, and we move away from it. In Nairobi, I do a lot of running personally along the way. I've stopped because of what I see. I don't know if it is centralization of insecurity in the country or is it true. But what I will say is that he cut his teeth by being Nairobi boss, IG Koome. He knows every corner in this town and where thugs will be. We hope that in the next 1 or 2 weeks, he should have fixed the problem. Let it work with the border sector to make sure that the few who are there, the few elements who are there who are perpetuating the insecurity in our city are also put to book. There is also insecurity where there is insecurity every other place in this country because we want a 24-hour economy. Where we do not have security, of course, business will not thrive. So all these things also is part of the plan. Security, food insecurity should be the thing of the past. Housing insecurity, the thing of the past. Every other insecurity must be put aside. He has a huge responsibility. He's up to the task. Let him stop talking. Let him get down to work.
Well, you said that the president, if he doesn't perform, the president is not a person who will just watch and say, I don't know what he will do within the law.
There's a lot you can do within the law. If you feel that you are uncomfortable with someone, even though it is a constitutional office, there is so much that you can do. You can't have people losing life and property and still keep someone in office. There are so many mechanics of removing someone from office who are shown that they cannot be not performing.
His tenure is secured in law for
I know.
years.
I am aware.
How do you do that?
There's also processes of removing in the same law.
Yeah.
You cannot have someone, let me tell you, and I liked what I think Honorable Kosing had said. We must give someone a performance contract. So that someone tells us, if you are told today that you silence the guns in the north and you don't do it, then of course, what is your responsibility after 1 or 2 years?
I get where you're coming from, but can you really give instructions to the inspector?
The former IG had security of tenure. What happened?
You tell me.
Is he still in office?
Tell me what happened.
He resigned. DCI Kinoti had security of tenure. Is he still in office? He's resigned. You are forced to resign. He's the head of state. He will tell you, go home. You cannot let my people die as you watch.
Okay, forced to resign.
He's been given all the instruments to do that job. Let him get the job done.
Okay.
Sam, let me say something about security, and I think we need to be very serious as a country. One, and it's important, is that we need to open up the north through infrastructure, through projects, and make sure that the north is accessible. Why we find things getting out of hand is areas which are already open, like Kangundo, Matungulu, Machakos, Nairobi. And that's where the IG needs to pull up his socks and come up with a totally different strategy. A week ago, a businessman in Kangundo, somewhere in Kakuyuni, was picked from home and killed by thugs, and is residing next to a police station. What we need to do is this, Sam. We need, first and foremost, to evaluate where we are security-wise as a country. And I know the country has the capability to do that in a matter of few minutes, few days, and come up with a strategy. What you are seeing on social media, on mugging, is real. It's not an option. And I think I want to relate this with the opulence which is coming into the country, whereby life has become very hard. The cost of living is high. The cost of schooling our kids is high. The cost of medication is high. The cost of even traveling is quite high. The cost of fuel has gone high. We need a holistic approach situation to make sure that we carve down all these things, and you'll see the crime rate has gone up. During Kibaki tenure, when the economy started improving, the rate of crime went down. So we need to think outside the box and stop the operations, as Kosing said, and look at basically what could be the triggers of this insecurity. The triggers of this insecurity is people becoming hopeless because they don't have money in their pocket.
Okay.
So the government of the day need to come up with speed to make sure that we reduce the cost of living, we reduce the cost of unga, we reduce the cost of fuel, we make sure that business can thrive, we can have a 24-hour economy, and you'll find that this crime rate goes down.
All right, and of course, before that is done, there's crime to deal with, and Nairobi governor has said that he's going to have a meeting with the IG Koome today to discuss the situation in Nairobi. What have you witnessed yourself, and what do you want done as soon as possible?
Well, what I've witnessed is in fact a surge in criminal activities, you know, and some of it is becoming very daring, especially in urban areas. In Nairobi, unfortunately, we are only talking about the few that have been brought to the front. And I've got to thank media houses like Citizen for profiling some of these cases. There is one case that's very dear to me. You saw the incident that happened in Ridgeways, an area that is supposed to be seemingly safe area. It so happens that this is an incident that happened to a family that I know. But even in the Daybreak South constituency, we have seen a surge of criminal activities, very bold, especially the ones that are being perpetrated by people who are pillion passengers on border borders, the ones who are stabbing people, in open, in daylight. But my expectations from the meeting between my governor and the IG is that they will start working towards an innovative way of policing. That traditional policing might not be able to keep up with the innovative criminal elements of today. Now, other than fighting advancements in technology, I wish that the city of Nairobi would lead in the innovative ways of policing the city. For example, the border riders are one very well spread out entity, that every corner of a road, there must be a base for border riders. How about if we found innovative ways of incorporating them into community policing, where they become part of intelligence gathering, but also become first responders to crime, so that we do not take them as the criminals and charge them just for running a hustle called border, but we find a way of innovatively incorporating them in community policing, especially in urban centers. The social media has become the new OB, that rather than run to a police station, people are reporting to us the crimes on social media. How about the police have an entire wing dedicated on combing the social media, the interwebs, the WhatsApp groups, to see what is being reported so that they are responding to the right situation with the right strategies. What I am saying is that even the Nyumba Kumi setup, as it had been envisioned in the Mwai Kibaki era, has run obsolete. You will find people who have served in this Nyumba Kumi for 20 years now. This person is not offering anything more to this Nyumba Kumi setup. How about we reconfigure them to incorporate new members of this Nyumba Kumi setup, revamp community policing, innovate in the way we approach how crime is reported and how it is attended to, so that we now come to the point where we all know that crime will take a concerted effort from all corners, including the public, that has to be vigilant in attending to this crime. Because when we all throw it to IG Kome or throw it to the government, then we are also not playing our part.
All right.
So I think there will be need for a concerted effort. There is no hypodermic thin needle that will be injected and crime will end in one day. There is no hypodermic needle that will solve this problem in a day. It will take all of us getting involved in the right place and being vigilant in policy.
I hear you, Honorable John Kerry, and it's time now to quickly look at the feedback that has come to us via Twitter, Citizen TV Kenya at Sam Gituku. The hashtag use is Daybreak, but also on SMS 22422. And this is what Kenyans are saying. Remy Buti, you're saying that NG-CDF has had a positive transformational effect at the grassroots, ironing out regional imbalances brought about by patronage politics, by fighting poverty through the implementation of local government projects and helping needy students. Godi Barazawere, the NG-CDF kitty is meant for uplifting the development status of the constituencies. There should be no mystery, push and pull about this fund, because the well-being of our constituencies highly depended on it. Bobo Tieno, CDF seized when we passed the new constitution in 2010 under devolved functions via county government. Once MPs don't get it, they will remain irrelevant to the threats. All right, Yusuf Sheko, even if CDF is entrenched in the constitution and still handled by MPs, the fact remains that it's unconstitutional. The issue isn't whether the fund is useful or not, but the issue of oversight. These funds should have another mode of disbursement. Oringe Waswan, if we take away or interfere with the allocation of NG-CDF, then we are subjecting our constituencies to developmental impasse and stagnation. let the funding be appropriately revised to the constituencies as the key focal points. Judah, MPs need to understand is that everyone wants the NG-CDF. What Kenyans don't want is their association and involvement in CDF. We want the funds managed by another body. MPs should find other ways to appeal to the people, just like senators. All right. Vincent Tanui, members of parliament cannot oversee the implementation or coordination of the projects and at the same time offer oversight over the same project. Rev Harrison, NG-CDF was meant to benefit their local constituencies. Thus, it should be restructured and more laws enacted to enhance responsibility. God bless. Bwana Maverick, the honorable MPs are not coming clear on their peculiar attachment to CDF. If it's about bursaries, why not channel it directly to schools like capitation? Must the MP be involved? We live in Kenya, and we know that CDF benefits their cronies only. And there's also, well, you've had the feedback. There's also Luchetu Likaka who is saying that how does he, meaning MP, influence or pay school fees? What is that role? There's no mandate for him. So those are the views about the NG-CDF conversation. But it's clear that it's been quite transformational, but divided on really how that should be done. And Honorable Kosing, you said that you want a police inspector general from the NIS. Hilary Mutiambai was from there. Well, started as a policeman, but eventually went to the NIS. He was the director in charge of counterterrorism. Also, one Boynet was from there. But anyway, thank you all for your time. David Kosing from Pokot South.
Thank you.
From Belgut, Nelson Koech.
Thank you, Sam.
And John Kerry from Dagoretti South. And Stephen Mule from Matungulu. Thank you both. And thank you all for making time for us to have this conversation. See you again tomorrow at the same time on Daybreak. Bye for now.